I'll call this meeting to order, and it's the first meeting of the year for the Transportation and Public Works Committee. I'm Councilmember Reich. I chair the committee, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Councilmembers Johnson, Palmisano, and Gordon. We are a quorum and will proceed with today's agenda, which we have 12 items, 11 of which are consent, and we have one public hearing. And we've just been joined by Councilmember Fletcher. I will go through the consent items. Any committee member can pull them for further deliberation at their wish. Item 2 on the consent is the contract with Hennepin County for waste disposal services. 3 is the contract amendment with Shark Construction Incorporated for Columbia Heights Filter Plant Ferric Chloride System Improvement Project. 4 is the contract amendment with Lionel Lakes Landscaping Incorporated for turf establishment. 5 is the contract amendment with Meyer Contracting Incorporated for North Loop Reconstruction Project. 6 is the contract amendment with Park Construction Company for the Hempton Avenue South Project. That's a street reconstruction project. 7 is the contract amendment with Rice Lake Construction Group for Fridley Water Plant Rehabilitation Project. 8 is the contract amendment with Tiller Corporation for bituminous mixtures. 9 is the agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for Hennepin Avenue Street Reconstruction Project. 10 is the gift acceptance from the Minnesota Department of Transportation for Parklet Structure. 11 is the bid for sidewalk, curb, and driveway approach project. 12 is the bid for hauling and disposal of dirt and snow, and that's accepting the low bid from Vite Company. Anyone wish to pull a consent item? Seeing none, I'll move all items as submitted. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. Those carry, and we can go to today's public hearing. Good morning, Deputy Director Dodds.
Good morning. We're here for the public hearing of the reappointment by the Executive Committee of Robin Hutchison to the appointment position of Director of Public Works for a 2-year term beginning January 2nd, 2020.
Thank you for that. And since we've already had some process with this, I will just go right into opening the public hearing. Did anyone sign in? Oh, I have a sheet. I will go and take them in order as they've signed in, starting with Commissioner Vitaw. Welcome and good morning.
Thank you, Chair Wright. Good morning. Happy New Year. So good to see everyone so early in the year. I'm here to speak on behalf of Director Robin Hutchison. We've had the pleasure of getting to know each other over a couple years, and what I've noticed is Director Hutchison has worked hard to change the culture in public works so that we see the opportunities beyond the road, the pipe, and the storm drains. That's like huge for me because I have no expertise in this. So just having a conversation with her enlightens me almost every single time. And she also looks well beyond what outcomes we can leverage in the way of equity, health, safety, and the environment as a whole. My work at North Point and my work on the Park Board, both are beneficiaries to her way of thinking. A few examples that come to mind for me are the Plymouth Avenue protected bike lanes. Those are very important in North Minneapolis. Increasing safety and comfort for people who ride on the north side, and the Sea Line with all the cooperative improvements that were made to make transit more accessible and quite frankly, just up to standards, the standards that the community deserves. Another example is a discussion we had about Worth Parkway. Worth Parkway is an absolute nightmare for me as a parks commissioner who lives on Worth Parkway. I mean, I have people that just wander into my yard and talk to me about Worth Parkway. So it's amazing to have someone that I can call and talk to about a lot of the concerns around Worth Parkway. Localized flooding that the Park Board and the city experience on a more regular basis has destroyed the sub-base of Worth Parkway. And we've had great conversations around ways that we need to move forward with it. It's going to be more expensive to fix than any other parkway, but we're pressing forward. We're trying to make it work, and the plan is scheduled for 2020 because we know it's an important connection for the park system and for community access. We are really diligently looking at how to make this better for everyone. Neither of us can do it alone. She knows that, I know that. I enjoy working with Director Hutchison most of all because she's taught me, a layperson, so much about public works. She's taught me in such a way that I can go back to the community and explain to them what she explains to me, and make sure that people feel like they're part of the decision making and that they're that they can be at the table when decisions are made about their neighborhoods. In closing, I would just urge you to reappoint Director Hutchison. Her vision and her forward thinking is key to our city's future. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call up Aswad Naoyanan.
Good morning, Chair Reich, Vice Chair Bender, and members of the Transportation and Public Works Committee. My name is Ash Narayanan. I am the Executive Director of Our Streets Minneapolis, an organization that works to make the city a better place for those walking, biking, and rolling. I'm here to speak in favor of reappointing Director Hutchison to the post of Public Works Director for the City of Minneapolis. My organization has an open and collaborative relationship with Director Hutchison and the City of Minneapolis Public Works Department. We are partners on initiatives such as Bike Month, Bike to Work Day, the We Walk MPLS campaign, and of course, Open Streets Minneapolis. In addition to the work of many City of Minneapolis and Our Streets Minneapolis staff, our relationship with Director Hutchison has been key to the success of these events. Our collaboration on these events are a result of us sharing the same goals of putting people first on Minneapolis streets. Director Hutchison has demonstrated trust and reliability to those of us in the advocacy community by consistently being available for conversation and answering our concerns. We are heartened by the systematic improvements to walking, biking, and rolling infrastructure on Minneapolis streets during her tenure. While we may sometimes disagree on specific strategies to improve transportation infrastructure in the city, Director Hutchison's willingness to engage in open and constructive debate on these topics is testimony to her effective leadership and ability to maintain relationships with a variety of stakeholders. We appreciate her collaborative approach to creating new policies and standards, as evidenced by the well-executed effort to reach out to the public during the creation of the Vision Zero Plan and the upcoming Transportation Action Plan. We also applaud her service on the board of directors of NACTO, the National Association of City Transportation Officials. As a city and a region, we have many significant challenges ahead of us, these including eliminating carbon emissions from transportation to prevent catastrophic climate change, reducing deaths and severe injuries from traffic crashes, and making sure opportunity is available to everyone, regardless of age, race, gender, or physical ability. These challenges will require extraordinary feats of cooperation amongst many different groups and agencies to solve. I believe Director Hutchison is the right person to lead Minneapolis Public Works through this period. I look forward to continuing to work with her and her team of committed staff to ensure that we make Minneapolis the gold standard for cities that put people first in transportation. I therefore conclude by strongly supporting Director Hutchison's appointment to another term at Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Rockwell.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sam Rockwell. I am the Executive Director of Move Minnesota, a transit advocacy organization, and also serve as the President of the Minneapolis Planning Commission. I'm here to speak in favor of Robin Hutchison's reappointment. I think that Robin's work over the years has helped elevate the city both for our own citizens and the city, among other cities, in the United States. Specific examples of this work include our drive to become a Vision Zero city, our looking to reduce the amount of pavement and increase the durability of pavement in the city, which is strong fiscal policy long term, and also helps to improve our pedestrian realm in conjunction with Public Works' focus on stormwater management these days, which protects our one of our greatest resources in this state, our water. And also bolsters that pedestrian realm, which for visitors to the city is that first impression and that lasting impression, which of course we're all working on in our built environment, in the buildings, and also in our public realm. I'm also extremely excited about the advent of bus lanes on our streets. Transit is crucial to our transportation future. We know from our own 2040 plan that we've got to reduce vehicle miles traveled in the city if we're going to hit our climate goals, and we're not going to be able to do that without transit. There are limited ways that transit can be pushed forward at the city level, and bus lanes is one of those. So the ability to get funding for those lanes and get those lanes implemented is a huge win, and I'm excited to continue to see our equity metric for determining investments in the city roll out, and our transportation action plan. Over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to get to know Robin a bit, and I see her as a creative thinker, listener. I also know she cares deeply and viscerally about climate change, which, as I already touched on, is crucial to our future, the city's direction, and reflects in particular recent city policy and the declaration of a climate emergency, which is, thank you very much for doing that. I also want to reiterate that by speaking on behalf of Robin's reappointment, I'm not saying the Public Works has done everything perfectly, nor solved all our problems. Too many of our streets are still dangerous. We burn too many fossil fuels as we travel around. And the politics of evolving our public realm and our streets are still incredibly messy. But we're working out of decades of the wrong kind of investment and systems and processes that created that kind of investment. So changing those systems and also changing the infrastructure caused by those systems is a big lift. And to achieve this transformational change, I think we need the right leadership. And I'm confident that Robin, in conjunction with all of you and in partnership with all of you and the rest of your colleagues on the City Council, can provide that creativity, that understanding, listening, and leadership to move us forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those insights. Next will be Aaron Aleka.
Good morning. Happy New Year. In recognition of the impending climate disasters to come, the City of Minneapolis declared a climate emergency, thank you, last month. While the declaration didn't give us any specific powers, we have to act like our house is on fire, and that means we need to make transit, walking, and biking easier, not harder, especially during our long winters. That means we need dedicated funding to clear sidewalks so that people can get to the grocery store, restaurants, bus stops. It means we need to make driving a car and parking it less convenient, since cars cause 40% of Minnesota's emissions. It means we need dedicated bus lanes everywhere. Public Works has the opportunity to create a bold vision for Minneapolis. With our 2040 plan, we've shown that Minneapolis can be an exemplar for larger cities in the United States. What can we do to create a more equitable, safer, and greener city? We can build streets to human scale. We can lower speed limits, add curb-protected bike lanes, and make pedestrian safety a priority. We need to work with Hennepin County to downsize four-lane death roads like Lake Street, Lyndale, Central, and Hennepin Avenue. We can price parking properly, add congestion charges downtown, and pilot car-free zones. And we can make streets safe. If Oslo, Norway, which has a larger population than Minneapolis, can achieve 0 road deaths in 2019, we can too. Vision Zero is a step in the right direction. We're on the right path, but Public Works can do even better. I'd love to see Public Works, led by Director Hutchison, pilot some of the projects I mentioned. Big challenges demand big ideas. My sincere hope is that in the coming years, Director Hutchison can help make Minneapolis a beacon for the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Let's see. Mr. or Mrs. Behe? Couldn't quite read the first name.
Hello, council members. Usually I promise a free Somali lunch with goat meat if somebody says my name right. For the future. Thank you.
I'll practice.
Yes. It's not an easy name. It's a 9-letter name, so that's Abdi Rizak Behe. I'm here in support of our director, Robin Hutchison. My name is Abdi Rizak Behe, and I am a community leader who resides in Cedar Riverside for the past 20-something years. I'm here to support the director, reappointed as a Public Works Director. Under her leadership, Robin was able to mobilize multiple teams to leverage investments in infrastructure for broader city goals, including resilience, mobility, and economic vitality. I'll keep it short. We in Cedar Riverside felt engaged by her conversation, especially when we were working on to actually connect Cedar Riverside community to City of Minneapolis because of all those bridges we always felt isolated. So Cemetery Crossing wasn't really a big gateway for us. It's just new. And we are walking to the city. We are really applying jobs, not in Bloomington, but in downtown Minneapolis. That's a really huge change in our community that felt 30% of unemployment and average age of 20 years is really alarming and always challenging. So economic vitality is very important. For the first time also, we have a bike maintenance tower in front of Brian Coyle, where young people who gets donated bikes from Alina Hospitalis every year, last 3 years, can fix their bikes and bike in the summer instead of being on the street. Also, we have a water fountain for the first time. For a lot of people, it might not be something big or something to mention, but in that part of the city, it's important. So also we have right now crossing lights on Cedar Avenue where the crossing rate is really higher than a lot of places in the city to those shops in the community. And now we feel safe to cross the street or send our young girls to do our errands across the street. Now, recently, Seward neighborhood, those common bond managed building, a huge number of our community use small playground. It's highly risky. Usually people don't go all the way to the light. So recently, a pedestrian walking space was created. So we really appreciate all the work, and we want to continue that relationship and engagement we have recently found to continue. So thank you for your efforts and work. We support our reappointment of our director. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next will be Mr. and Mrs. Risa, or Risa.
Hi there, Council. Happy New Year to all you. I just want to say that I'm really excited to see the next 2 years with Robin Hutchinson's appointment. I've seen her work in the last couple of years, and I, as a resident of Minneapolis, as a person who's lived here forever, I see our city as the standard going forward in American cities when it comes to building cities, roads around people and not around cars. I would just want to say that I want to see a heavy investment in transit and transportation for humans around our city. And I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jake G. Jake G, 3500 Bryant. Okay, moving down, Steve Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Steve Kramer, President and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council and Downtown Improvement District. And appreciate the opportunity to make a few comments in support of the reappointment of Robin Hutchison as Public Works Director. When I sit occasionally in the Public Works conference room, I recognize quite a few of the pictures up on the wall, which I think just means I'm getting a lot older. But one reflection I have on the history of leadership is directors in that position find the most success when their approach and skill set match up with the direction policymakers want to go in the city. And I think you have that in abundance with Robin, and her performance has proven that this basic alignment. Over time, there have been fundamental misalignments between public works directors and policymakers, and that's tough and painful for everyone. But that's not the case today, which isn't to say there aren't occasional challenges that you deal with and that stakeholders deal with, but the basic fit is there. If it's not there, you know it. It's there in this case, and so I think that's something important to say about Robin's leadership. With my business association hat on, you also have in Robin someone who can effectively work with that sector of the community, and I'll mention just a couple of quick examples. One of my very first experiences with Robin is when she took to heart concerns our office had about the initial RFP for professional design services related to the Hennepin Avenue project. And she worked with her staff to change the RFP so the approach to the project was more holistic and participatory. I think we have a much better project as a result, with significant business community buy-in as measured by the willingness of major properties to enter into a special assessment for streetscape improvements. She did that in the right way, but she also did it in a way that sent an unmistakable signal to her staff early in her tenure that there was a new leader with some different thinking at the helm. Robin also does a good job communicating thought leadership to the business community, not just here's what we're going to do to you or for you, but in advance of decisions discussing here's why the city is considering a policy or a procedure change that can have real world implications for how a business or building operates. She's accessible. As an example, Robin regularly attends our transportation committee meetings, which brings her into contact with a number of business leaders. And in my experience, Robin is unfailingly professional and engaging in her interactions with business people. We were pleased to help sponsor the session she organized with Jeanette Sadiq Khan last year, which was one of those opportunities to engage downtown and other stakeholders in broadening our thinking about public works issues. Of course, no successful leader is on an island, and so I've also observed the very constructive relationship Robin has with staff throughout the department. She's anxious to give credit where credit is due to the folks she works with, which goes a long way towards creating an environment where people want to do their best work because they know they will be supported. And I'll wrap up by recalling the last time I saw Robin before today, which was on Christmas, when folks were dealing with the aftermath of the fire at the Drake Hotel. And I saw Robin in a yellow vest on 3rd Avenue, I think it was 3rd, maybe 4th, helping to direct traffic. And a couple public works trucks showed up, and we helped load them up and got supplies that were donated to a safe place for the evening. And while I didn't talk to Robin about this, I just assumed that that was another example of a leadership trait, which I think is really important, and that is under those very difficult and unique circumstances, she wasn't going to ask anyone to do what she herself wasn't willing to do. And I think that goes a long way towards creating an environment where a department like Public Works, which has enormous and complex responsibilities, is going to respond to her leadership and really do extraordinary work for the city in the coming years. So couldn't support her renomination strongly enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. That's the last who signed up. Anyone subsequently sign up? Anyone wish to come forward? This is a public hearing for the reappointment of our city director. Are you motioning to come forward? Yeah, come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Just to make sure I'm on the right time, this is the comment period for the nomination of Robin Hutchison. Okay, I just walked in, sorry. Name is Jake Gisland. I live at 3535 Bryant Avenue South. I had intended to put some remarks together before I actually got up here and spoke, but I had a meeting before this for my day job, so I apologize for being extemporaneous. But I wanted to just say I just moved back to Minneapolis about 6 months ago from D.C. I grew up here but moved away for a few years. Over the summer, this fall actually, there was a building on 27th Avenue South by the U that housed a lot of students, and as they moved in, the bike lane there became a de facto parking lot. At one point, there was some city-issued thing saying there was a month-long obstruction from a bunch of vehicles to park in the bike lane to unload their vehicles, move their kids in or whatever. And that was on social media. Once Robin heard about it, those permits were revoked, and the situation changed pretty quickly, and I appreciate the kind of responsiveness that demonstrates. However, as someone who bikes and walks around Minneapolis a lot, I notice lots of problems in our city that don't get addressed very well, and I see responses from 311 saying that the sidewalk is shoveled and it isn't, or saying that bike lane can't be cleared because there's snow in it, and we need to do better than as a city, and that falls in Robin's department as I understand it. So I look forward to that being addressed a bit more enthusiastically in the future, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward and make comment? Anyone else wish to come forward? See none, I will close the public hearing. I see that we've been joined by the mayor. Would you yield the floor to you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see you have some new microphones in the council chambers here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Public Works is traditionally a department that is bound by fairly rigid standards. A street is supposed to be X number of feet wide. Lighting must be installed using the Cobra design. Rainwater has got to be dealt with most efficiently, regardless of the consequences downstream. How many cars that you can get through a given intersection or a specific pinch point has traditionally been the measure of success or failure. And Director Hutchison has managed to bust those standards wide open. She has enthusiastically embraced and actually set a vision for how the Public Works Department can function. And she's done it with this lighthearted attitude and even a little bit of panache that allows people to coalesce behind a vision of change. And Public Works is not traditionally like a department that you hear a whole lot of cheering about, out in the community. You see people that are frustrated, or you don't hear anything at all. But I think in the case of Director Hutchison, you see a lot of people and hear from a lot of people that are enthusiastic about where she's taken the city as a whole. Public Works does a whole lot more than the specific items that you might think about. I mean, Public Works was involved with the sanitation and harm reduction over at the homeless cabin. Public Works and Robin were heavily involved during the Drake fire. Every single issue has some form of interface with Public Works and by extension, Director Hutchison. And I'm proud to put her name forward. I asked for your support, and I strongly know that she is the right leader at this right time. Thank you, council members.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any comments from my colleagues now that the public hearing is closed? Councilmember Gordon.
Yeah, I'll just note that I'm enthusiastically supportive of this. I really appreciated the work, the competence, the professionalism, the sense of humor, the willingness to get down into the details of specific projects, but also the ability to see the big picture and the big vision for where the city should be going in terms of public works. And I'm looking forward and excited about the next few years and what we can really do with our complete streets policy, our Vision Zero, our transportation plan, and how we can improve the city. I think we've got a great opportunity here. I really appreciated when Steve Kramer was talking about a fit or a match. I think there really is a lot of synergy and a lot of like-mindedness with policymakers and with the leadership in the department, and really appreciate not only the work of the director, but also everybody else who's here, who's part of that, and moving us forward. So delighted to support this reappointment.
Thank you. Council President Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to move approval of this item. I don't think I haven't had yet. And then just wanted to offer some comment. I'm not surprised to hear what we heard from folks who came to speak, both community leaders and folks from the community. I think there's been a huge shift in our Public Works Department since I've taken office, and particularly since Director Hutchison came to lead the department through a time of change. And I so appreciate the style that you bring, Director, which is collaborative and visionary at the same time. I also think that there's been a shift in my community, and I think in the city as a whole, where more and more people both feel like we can see improvement in our streets for all users and know how to get in touch with us to tell us about that change. And I think it's part of a bigger trend of more people getting involved in local government. I'm excited to see in my ward that has so many renters, 80% renter in Ward 10, a lot of young people who may not live in the ward for a long time. But I have been really intentional about making sure that no matter how long you have lived in my community, your voice is just as important as anyone who's lived there, for longer. And I see more and more people getting involved, even if they're moving around from different cities, like we've heard today, different neighborhoods within our community, and folks who've lived here for a long time. And I think all of those voices are really important. That wealth of life experiences, both within our community and around the country and world, are important to draw on when we're building our city. And I think nothing is more important than the day-to-day experiences of people getting around our city. And so that's, I think, when I hear from my constituents any frustration, it's mostly, I think I could summarize, is both wanting to see more change, but also wanting to be part of that change and really feeling like their voices are important. I think my constituents want to be engaged in knowing what's happening with street improvements. I think a lot of the things that we've heard are things that are planned to happen in the future, but I think my constituents want to know when that's going to happen and how they can be part of that change. And so that's where I think that we can go and how we can continue to improve as both elected leaders and the department is in communication, in helping people feel a part of this change and building on the momentum that I see growing for more sustainable transportation improvements, more bold visionary work to make our streets safer for everyone. And I think someone said we need to act like the house is on fire. I mean, we have a climate emergency that is real, and it isn't time for small steps. It is time for big change. We have the political support we need. Director, you have the support of all of us, I think, in making those big changes. I'm excited to see the draft transportation action plan, which I think will bring together a lot of those ideas. I'm excited to see us build on the Vision Zero plan and all of the other work happening. So thank you for your leadership. I'm enthusiastically supportive, working together with you and all of our community to continue to build for more change in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make comments? Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Reich. I'm going to enthusiastically support this motion. I think Director Hutchison is an extraordinary leader, and I think despite several dozen people on Twitter who probably think they can do it better. It always feels that way. I think it would be very hard to find someone who is sort of more qualified to lead us forward in the vision that we're all putting forward. And I think I just want to echo the sentiment. Generally, I think that we've heard, which is a tension between both really believing in the vision. And I'm someone who really enjoys the work of public works. So I'll say thank you to the whole department, right? I'm someone who drinks tap water. I'm someone who takes the bus and rides a bike and walks and uses scooters sometimes, and all of the stuff that is happening on our streets. I am lucky enough to live in a very transit dense, walkable neighborhood, and I want that for more people in the city. And I think that's the vision that we're putting forward. I also see the ways that we're not moving fast enough. I also see snow removal feels like something that we just have not made the progress on that we want to. And I think that there are a lot of examples of places where people are telling us that they don't feel safe using particular intersections or in particular places. And it feels like we are planting a lot of flags around policy that should give you all the support and confidence that you need to move forward boldly. And we're seeing small pilot projects. We're seeing stuff start to move. People are seeing the potential. But we have a comp plan. We have a climate emergency declaration. We have a Vision Zero plan. We've been declaring political support for let's get this moving and in traffic planning. And let's really build the safe streets that we've been talking about. And I believe you're going to do that. I support you in doing that, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on doing that.
Thank you for that. Anyone else wish to make comment? We have a motion before us. We can take that motion, and then we'll invite the director to come before the committee and address the committee. Seeing no other comments, I'll just briefly echo a lot of what's been said. I think Council President really touched on something in her comments regarding the multiplicity of different voices creating a greater strategy than would have been otherwise, and how important those voices are. I think even at this hearing where we had a handful of people, it was an amazing cross-section of partners and perspectives, jurisdictional partners, nonprofit, advocacy, commission leaders, people in the business community, a lot of different perspectives there, and having that funnel through a department is not an easy thing, particularly when it's a very complicated department with many different facets to it. I have to give Mr. Bihi a shout out. I don't know if I get your last name right, I get half an order per your promise, but he actually referenced water delivery, as did my colleague, Councilmember Fletcher. I know T and TPW gets a lot of the attention, but I know Director Hutchinson knows it's a whole, and all the divisions, be it water delivery, management, waste management, all those things play into big picture things. very, very directly and very intimately. I'm very heartened by the fact that we could have had a sort of a check-the-box great accomplishments in the last 2 years, of which there's much to demonstrate and would be, I think, called to reappoint right there. But I think a lot of our conversation here, we're excited about what's next. That's because your leadership brings us to that place with some confidence of what's next and a determination to improve, to innovate, to get the data, to do it thoughtfully with all those different voices coming together in a productive manner. And I just think that tone of what's next really, to me, heartens my decision to support with my colleagues and the appointment by the mayor supporting a reappointment. With that, the motion before us from Council President to reappoint is before us. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries, and I would ask the director to address the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, all of the members of the Transportation and Public Works Committee. Mayor Fry, thank you so much for your nomination. I really appreciate the opportunity to address this body today. I'm speaking today to share with you why I love being the Director of Public Works. Every day, we take pride in making Minneapolis better. When it snows, we work. When it floods, we work. When our old infrastructure fails us, we work. When the fire department calls upon us for support, we work. Literally every day, our operation supports daily life in Minneapolis. We deliver safe drinking water, pick up recycling, pave streets, fill potholes, time our signals. We build transformative infrastructure. And every day, I take pride in leading this amazing team of talented and dedicated public works professionals, all 1,000 of them. So for me, this service orientation that I just described has to be the foundation on which a vision is built. And that vision recognizes that of all the land in the city, 22% of it is held in trust for the public within the city's right-of-way. And if we see this right-of-way as a benefit to the public, we unlock it to reach multiple city goals. And so for me, climate is the most important thing that I bring into my profession every day. So I'm going to start there with how our right-of-way and everything we do in public works supports the climate emergency that has been declared by this city council. It's perhaps the most visible, certainly not our only effort, but we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions through our work in transportation, and I agree, we need to accelerate. In the last couple of years, we've installed almost 30 miles of biking facilities, 12 miles of protected bike facilities. We've upgraded about 4,000 crosswalks to be more visible. We've built 300 curb extensions for people walking and rolling to make sure they feel more safe. We launched a proactive sidewalk inspection program because winter is challenging here in Minnesota, and we believe deeply that people need the opportunity to get around no matter what the season is. And all of this improves safety and improves the ability for people to make a different choice than to drive a car. We're proud to have developed the first Vision Zero action plan, and we're pretty darn excited to get to work lowering speed limits throughout the city. There's a lot of anticipation about the Transportation Action Plan, and we're excited too. But the climate platform in public works is broad and wide and strong, and it goes far beyond what we do in transportation, though sometimes it's not quite as visible. We spent a few years being extremely thoughtful about a zero waste action plan, and we're starting to implement. And we're thinking really creatively about that, how to reduce our waste stream, and potentially how do we reduce it, create a circular economy, create energy. There is so much to be done. We're greening our city's fleet. We've had tremendous support from the council, and we so appreciate that. And we're buying more and more electric vehicles, sedans, small SUVs. We've significantly increased our efforts to incorporate green infrastructure into our designs, piloting biochar, silvicells, and other creative measures to keep our rivers and lakes clean and to reduce localized flooding. And of course, always, we think of our streets for equity, and we continue to apply, refine, and apply again our equity criteria for over-investing in our racially concentrated areas of poverty in Minneapolis. I want to talk a little bit about what you can expect from me. You can expect me to focus on service as we do every day for the city of Minneapolis. You can also expect me to accelerate on this vision that you have as a city and that we have as Public Works. We know that there is a lot of work to be done, and we are by no means finished with really anything. And in some ways, we are just at the start. I appreciate that someone who provided testimony said the words congestion pricing, because it says to me that the community is thinking as boldly as we are, and we will need that kind of universal support to make bold moves. You can expect an increasing level of communication and collaboration with the community, with our stakeholders, with you, with the mayor's office, because communication, as the council president has noted, is so important to bringing people into the discussion and actually sharing the work with them. And most of all, you can expect me to continue to support an incredible team of Public Works professionals to recruit from our Minneapolis community so that our workforce truly represents the people that we serve. From the directors who are sitting behind me, to the pipe fitters, electricians, plow operators, foremen, trainees, engineers, planners, technicians, lab specialists, service workers, financial analysts, and so many more, my first job is to be sure they have the tools to succeed. Without them, there's no service, there's no vision, there's no work that really moves us forward. And I am humbled to lead them. To everybody who came and provided testimony today, thank you so much for the supportive and kind words. You keep us going. For the things that you wished we were doing more of, it's so important that you push us and that we hear you and that we respond. So thank you so much for being here. To Mayor Fry, thank you again for your nomination. And to the committee, I appreciate so much the ability to stand here before you and close out this meeting with a few thoughts, and for the opportunity I'm grateful for to lead the Department of Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I believe with that, we've dispensed our business and may be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Oh. It's not a hard